Now, I'm joined by BJ Martino, the US pollster. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us a very early morning for you in the US. Let's start by just running over the picture of the week. Has it been a good one for Kamala Harris, or has perhaps Donald Trump been able to level things off a bit?
It's been a good several weeks for the Harris campaign. And the moment that she took over from Joe Biden, she started receiving unabated positive press and has avoided scrutiny really to this point, not having done a single interview. So that has allowed a rollout of the Harris candidacy in a way that many other presidential campaigns have never received, this sort of level of positive press and personal attention without a focus on the issues. And as a result, this has taken the race from a place that was seen largely as in the bag for the Trump campaign and is now truly a competitive presidential race.
Just on that fact that Kamala Harris hasn't done an interview, is it because her team want her to get the nomination downlocked, done, finished, and then do the interviews because they're a little bit scared that she might indulge in a word salad or two?
I think that's certainly part of it. Sure, past interviews being perhaps a precursor to what is to come, they have seen, and with the press giving attention strictly on the idea of the transformative nature of her candidacy, giving the energy back to young voters, particularly the base of the Democratic Party that was de-energized because of Biden's age. And so they're waiting as long as possible to avoid that kind of scrutiny. Now, it's going to come one way or the other. There is a debate set for September 10th. And at that point, there's going to be a discussion of the issues. But right now, what the polling is showing us is that when you compare Harris's personal image to that of Trump's, meaning how voters view each of them personally, Harris has a much better personal image than Donald Trump and is seen more favorably on a number of personal qualities. When you ask about the job they've done in their role, meaning a view of Harris as vice president or a retrospective look back at Trump's time as president, voters have a much more positive view of Donald Trump. They have a more positive view of how he would handle some of the most important issues, including the economy and cost of living. And so right now there's this dichotomy among voters. Her advantage is coming strictly when voters focus on these personal issues and their personal views of the candidates. It's going to be incumbent upon the Trump campaign post the Democratic convention this coming week to turn back and really begin to focus voters on not only the issues, but connecting her to the Biden administration and her responsibility for the downturn in the economy that happened during that time, as well as some of her past statements that are really out of alignment as she's tried to walk back over the last few weeks.
But you talk about Donald Trump, concentrating on the policies, focusing on what Kamala Harris has offered as vice president. But every time he stands up to speak, it just turns into a personal attack. He doesn't seem to be able to help himself, does he?
This is true. Donald Trump
He
is
just
going
loves
to
it.
be Donald Trump. Yeah. You can't prevent him from doing and saying what he's going to do on the stump. I think you have to think of the campaign as something larger than this, the candidate themselves. There is millions and millions of dollars of television advertising that's going to be on not only on everyone's larger screen, but on all their smaller devices and their mailboxes. There's going to be a lot of effort taken to begin to shift this. Now, Donald Trump has to be a part of this. He has to be the tip of the spear when it comes to helping the campaign turn that discussion from personal issues to the issues that matter to voters. But it's going to be hard to keep him entirely on that because when he talks on the stump for an hour and a half, he talks about some issues. He talks about a lot of personal things. And unfortunately, what gets covered are the personal attacks because that's more salacious and more interesting. And so that gets the coverage. The issues don't get it. So there certainly has to be a more focus on the part of the Trump campaign and the candidate himself going forward. But there's ultimately no controlling him.
BJ Martino, yes, and ultimately no controlling him. Thank you, US pollster. Now let's speak to Shasti Conrad, chair of the Washington State Democratic Party, live, I'm told, from Chicago. How was the opening night yesterday?
It's been so exciting. You can just feel the energy everywhere. They're just thrilled to be together. They're thrilled to be celebrating Vice President Harris and Governor Walz. And I think we're ready to do this. We're ready to take this task on and get them elected.
And we're going to be hearing, of course, from President Biden, his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, at the DNC tomorrow night. What are we expecting to hear from them both?
I think President Biden's definitely going to want to recount his accomplishments of the last 4 years. I think you're going to hear a full-throated endorsement for Vice President Harris. And I think all of us want to make sure that President Biden hears our gratitude, feels our gratitude. We truly have to commend him on a life of public service, but also making a difficult decision that has put us and our party, and I think America, in the best position possible to continue our democracy, to continue to win, to continue to deliver for the American people. And I think we're going to hear that from him, and we're going to celebrate him.
Do you think Dr. Jill Biden has a bit of work to do when she speaks tomorrow, in terms of, there's a feeling she feels quite sour, quite unhappy with the way her husband was treated, and that actually she needs to do a bit of repair work to recognise that actually it was the best decision that Joe Biden stands aside for Kamala Harris?
I know that those two are, they're such a dynamic duo and truly a pair. And, I know that Dr. Biden is truly his most trusted advisor. And so I think she's going to want to make sure that we all remember how much he has given us and, how much we need to honor him. And so I think, she's going to probably bring that energy and bring that support. And, I truly, as I hear everyone around Chicago talking about across the party, people are just truly, truly great. President Biden. And I think we all want the entire family to feel welcomed and supported and appreciated as we head into this week.
Is there a feeling that Kamala Harris is now in a better position than Hillary Clinton was back in 2016? That actually the polls show that they're in a relatively similar position, but in terms of the momentum, there's a greater optimism about Kamala Harris?
I think that at this moment and for this Democratic Party organization, I think we are the most unified I've ever seen us. I think we are very clear on the mission and what we need to get done. We are moving forward. We are not looking back. And I think, look, it's been a tough, 10 years of dealing with, you heard the sound bites of just the past week from Donald Trump. I think we as a party recognize what we are up against, that the choice is truly about whether we are continuing a democracy or whether we are returning to authoritarianism, to fascism. And I think we all know that Vice President Harris is our best opportunity to move forward and to preserve democracy. And that's what we're going to do, which I think sets her up in the best position possible.
Yeah, and I understand, of course, there's likely to be quite a large pro-Palestinian protest at the convention this week. Domestically, is it important for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, that actually they've managed to broker some sort of ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in the Middle East?
And I think we all want to see an end to the conflict in the Middle East. I think we all want to see peace around the entire world. Certainly, there has been a loud contingent of our party that feels very, very strongly about a ceasefire, and I think that's important. We need to hear them. Us as a Democratic Party, we're not a cult. We are okay with dissent and debate. We make room for it. That is different than, I believe, the Republican Party, where they've all had to get in line behind Donald Trump no matter what crazy thing he says or does. And I think in our party, we need to be able to contend with all aspects of the folks who make our big tent. And so I think we're all hopeful that we will see some resolution to the conflict as soon as possible.
Shasti Conrad, chair of the Washington State Democratic Party, live from Chicago. Thank you so much for your time at this early hour.